If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back into the EscapePod. I'm Julie here with Charity.
Yes.
See, I do sing almost every time.
You do sing. Also.
What?
I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, I got distracted with my earring and then it went out. My brain. Okay, what am I escaping today? My brain.
Oh.
Clearly.
Escaping so many things this week. What are you
Definitely my
escaping?
brain. Do you see my list?
Go for it.
It's a bad list.
Just go down. Spew them out.
Well,
It's like a
I
therapy
would
session
love
without the therapy.
to escape responsibility. I wrote that down thinking, wouldn't that be nice? The number of times in the last 2 weeks, it has crossed my mind that it would really be nice to have a job that you just go, you do your thing, you go home, you don't think about it, no stress. I'm like, well, I don't even know what that's like. I've always been in stressful environments.
Well,
Always.
I had a job like that. They can still be stressful, but it's a different type of stress. Because that was kind of how news was. Like when you got done at the end of the day, you know, after that last show, I could go home and barring like a major incident, you know, you went home, you went to bed, you got up the next day. The thing about news is like,
There's more.
Or if it's not new, you're not following it necessarily.
And depending on the media outlet, you can also just make stuff up if nothing is naturally occurring.
Well, I was not part of that media outlet. But it still was stressful sometimes, but it wasn't that
kind of stress.
It was not that kind of stress. Yeah. But yeah, it is. Those jobs do definitely have their benefits for that reason because it is nice to go home. And
well, this nonprofit's not owned by anybody. Because it's a nonprofit, but it's very similar to if this were a for-profit.
Sure.
All of it, building it, it's all on my shoulders, and sometimes it just feels too big, and then amazing things happen with our guests, and I'm like, okay, I can stay stressed out a little bit more longer because they are slaying it.
They really are.
Word. I'm going to start using it now. You'll understand that reference later. But, so other things on the list today, I was going to say no-shows. We thought we had a no-show interview for the tech director position. But Kelly's been up front. He had called and left a message at like 8 o'clock with a family illness or emergency or something. So at least it wasn't no-shows.
Good.
But the big thing is I went to get my hair done yesterday, my haircut and stuff, and I am losing a butt ton of hair.
Oh.
She's like, how's your stress level?
Ooh.
She's like, because I know your diet, and your diet is great. And I'm like,
Well, you don't look like you're losing a lot of hair. But
thank you, but
I know what you mean because I do too.
Okay, so I'm colored and washed. She brushes it out, and then she looks at me. She goes, when did you last wash your hair? And I'm like, oh, no, it's this conversation. Because a bunch came out in the bowl.
Oh, shoot.
She brushed a bunch out, and I had just
done it.
And so it was like, am I going to be bald in like 3 weeks?
No.
Maybe. Like, we need to start talking about a wig. I don't know. But it's stress. She's like, because I said, you're hearing all these ads lately on
all the things
supplements
that will help
and
you
hair stuff, internal,
grow
external,
hair.
all this stuff. And she's like, it's cortisol. It's cortisol.
Yeah.
And, and we know it's cyclical. Like, I just have to get through all this major stress. And
so one of
it's gonna
the
be
things I really love about my husband, he will clean out the hair in the drain in the tub when I'm like, okay, it's starting to go slow. Do you love me enough to do it? And he always does it. And I'm like, I just love him so much for it. Is that weird?
No, Tim does it too.
Yeah. I'm like, it grosses me out. So I ask him to do it. And he doesn't even complain.
We kind of trade off. I'll do it. I don't like it, but we'll trade off.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he'll do it.
The other thing is we have a French press, and so you have to dump the coffee grinds, and we usually coffee grinds.
Because you were thinking about the stuff in the pipes,
Yes.
in the drain. So I see what you did there.
Oops. My brain isn't fully functioning today either. But anyway, and so sometimes I go to make coffee and it's already done. And I said, I really love that about you when you just take care of it. And it's no big deal. It's no big deal to have to be the person to do it, but it makes me happy that he does it. I'm like,
That's
thank
cool.
you.
Yeah.
It's those weird things. I don't know. It's being married. We're not newlyweds anymore. So it's the little things for sure.
Yeah.
So anything else you're escaping before I move on?
Yeah, I think people with nefarious intentions.
Well,
I
we
mean,
live in
the world does seem to be getting more and more crowded, and people do not seem to be getting any nicer.
they're not sometimes.
No, but we have some people that it's baffling to me that out in the community think they know what we do better than we do.
Right?
And it just baffles me. It's like, no, here's your stats. No, I'm telling you, here are my stats.
Yeah.
No, this is your stats. It's like, okay, obviously you have nefarious intentions because you're propagating false information intentionally after you've been corrected.
Well, the whole idea of
just
fake
wanna
news, I
kick
think
'em in the
people
throat.
always think of fake news as being like on a national level or
God,
like the
no.
stuff that you see on social media that comes from who knows where,
All over
this and
the
that.
place.
But we have experienced some instances of just very people we know and we're going, where is this coming from?
You've toured, you've heard our spiel,
Yeah.
we've given you reports,
Yeah.
and you're still making stuff up. That
Yeah.
means it's on purpose. So what's the agenda? Why? Like, I would love to be able to throw a microchip in these people's brains and let them see what our community would look like without us, without nonprofits.
Yeah.
It's like, are you trying to make it harder to be a nonprofit in today's world?
Well,
Like,
and
we're doing the hardest
sometimes
work on the planet.
in my role, because a lot of what I do here is communications. So I will get questions about other nonprofits. And I always am like, I really can't speak to
We're
what
not all the
another. Well, and I can't speak to what another nonprofit is doing. I will not speak for them. That is not appropriate. And I mean, I'm polite about how I say it, but I find anyway. Yeah,
Well,
I just make a point of like, I
don't-
can't tell
yeah.
you what they're doing. Ask them what they're doing, or I can't speak to that because somebody else is working on
I
that.
love that philosophy if people would just start actually educating themselves by asking questions. But I've heard several times in the last probably year that One Heart was here to solve everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
everything?
If you go back to what we proposed at the very beginning, we're doing that
7
thing.
years ago, we're doing that thing. We're doing exactly that thing.
Yeah.
And we're doing that thing and kicking ass at it. So this whole people that you've never even had a conversation with, they've never toured, I've never engaged with, I don't know who, it's like, where? So anyway, I would like to put all those people on an island
Ooh.
far, far, far away from here, and they can go ruin some other place and spew all the rumors that they want. But so that's
Okay.
dartboard something.
Well, Charity alluded to it. My 13-year-old has some fun sayings, one of them, and I know it's apparently a compliment, of course.
Oh, no, it's great. We say it about our clients all the time.
You're slaying,
slaying
it.
it.
And I'm like, please don't say that to me. Like, it just, and he knows it bugs me. And so,
Poke.
a
Poke,
little
poke,
bit.
poke.
Although I finally said one day, really, can we limit how much we use that phrase? Because he'll just say, slay mom. And I'm like,
Oh, not even for any purpose, just to get.
no, it'll be, how was work today?
Hey, Mom,
oh,
how's
it
that
was good.
work?
We
Here's my
got,
word.
I had a really good tour. Slaying it, Mom. So he does it all the ways, Charity. But I don't know. It just annoys me.
Does it?
It does. Well, for a while, it was so many times in a day. I would just look at him. Please stop. Please with that. Yeah. And what else? What was the other thing I was overthinking? We decided yesterday that I need to escape my habit of overthinking virtually everything in life.
Uh-huh.
So there you go.
That's some good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now if I can just put it into practice. All right. What's our topic today?
Escaping bad relationships,
Okay. Okay.
in a sense. There's some twists.
Okay.
There's some turns.
All
There's
righty.
some surprises.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Ready. Okay. We're going to go back to 2016, Orange County, California. 29-year-old graduate student named Michelle Hadley and 39-year-old U.S. Marshal Ian Diaz. They meet. They have a whirlwind romance from around 2013 to 15, buy a condo, engaged to be married, like the whole picture book, blah, blah, blah.
Fairy tale.
Yeah, that's not the kind of stories we tell here, right? Okay. At the end, no, I'm kidding. Okay. So
Never works out that way.
It never works out that way. So it was a very quick thing. They break up 2015. And from the sound of it, Michelle wasn't really keen on the breakup. I don't know what prompted it, but if I can't have you back, I'm going to make your life a little complicated, right?
Ooh.
That kind of thing, hanging on and being a pain in the butt. So she proceeds to email Ian a variety of breakup messages, and some of which have these religious references, and some of which she argued about what to do with the condo they owned together. That was a big point of contention.
Okay.
But some of the emails got pretty wild, and this will come up later in the court case. So here's one from September of 2015. Please explain to your real estate attorney that God's law is above all laws, including the law of man. Lilith, you may try to hide behind the law of man, but is a weak shield that will bend and crack against the sword of God. So you will pay for this. I hope to God you are ready for the pain I will show you. Burn in the fiery pits of hell tonight, as by God's law you will be hurt. So they sound,
Wow.
those are some pretty aggressive passages used in this context, right? So these are the emails he's getting from her.
Okay.
Okay. So he had some choices to make. He could fight back. He could get a restraining order. He could move on.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to move on. So he moves on. He joins a dating site. He meets a woman named Angela Connell, and they get married in 2016. So he was like, hey, I'm not messing around here. Okay. So he gets married just 2 short months after meeting Angela.
Oh.
So he was serious about moving
fast.
on.
Yeah.
Serious about moving on. Then in May of that year, she tells Ian she's pregnant.
Okay.
The end.
Nope.
No, you don't believe me? You're giving me a look. Of course, it's not the end. Okay. So their happiness is short-lived because shortly after the pregnancy announcement, in June of that year, Angela starts receiving threatening and aggressive email messages from Michelle.
Ooh.
Okay. Easy to believe, right? Because Ian had already been through this. So hundreds of them, including threats to have her raped and murdered, threats to her unborn child. There were, like, she'd open them up and there'd be graphic images of dead women or decapitated bodies. Just, yeah, horrific things. I mean, you open your email and you see something like that.
Okay, sidebar.
Yeah.
People
Please.
who get injured hurt themselves. Like, oh, I was in a biking accident this weekend, and show stuff even on social media. I feel like there should be, or like I had to have surgery. Look at my torn up foot now. Don't do that. I am horrified. I'm like, I'm just scrolling and I'm like, stop it. I want a warning.
This is, okay, I'm having 2 recovered memories as you're telling me this story. I don't really follow social media, as you know.
I do know.
You do know. I pay people to do that. But a girlfriend of mine, Kari, we were driving to Sioux Falls from Rapid City to do a police auxiliary speaking thing. Okay. So it was about the shooting.
Sure.
She was my police wife that kind of insulated me from all of the people who were outreaching and stuff like that. So we went to go talk about that. And she was, at the time, a Zumba instructor.
Okay, fun.
Yeah, she was a lot of energy. I just saw her last March in Florida. She's still a lot of energy. She's awesome. But in a Zumba thing, they were doing like the box jumps, you know. And while she was working out, she missed the box, and it took a huge chunk out of her, I think it was her shin. And so she's got her leg up on my dashboard, dressing the very open wound as we were driving to Sioux Falls. So that made me remember that. And then it also made me remember I understand freedom of speech, the press, all this stuff. I get it. But I remember when we lived in the Twin Cities, there were people who would drive around and they had turned their vehicles into anti-abortion billboards that showed pieces of babies.
Yeah.
And I'm in the car one time on the interstate. I can't go anywhere. And I have my little toddler, like 4-year-old or 5-year-old daughter in the car. And I'm like, come on. You are you're traumatizing other people. So anyway, that was horrific. And I don't remember what I said to her, but that was a really hard conversation to have.
Of course,
Yeah, anyway.
It's like shock jocks. Ugh,
Yeah.
but different.
Gross.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the
Sorry
kind
to
of
interrupt.
emails she's getting. No,
Okay.
please. I like the interruptions. So anyway, for whatever reason, all these emails she was getting, they were only threatening to her, not to Ian, her husband.
Okay.
So Michelle allegedly
She has a new target.
had Angela in her crosshairs. Yeah, Ian's old news. So they go to the Anaheim police, report the activity, show them the emails. Of course, Angela is scared, and she's saying, like, I don't know how crazy this woman is. I'm in fear for my life. And so she was granted a restraining order,
Okay.
which
Is a piece of paper.
piece of paper, woohoo. Yeah, it's not a bulletproof vest. But as you probably already suspected, it gets worse, or we really wouldn't have much of a story. So June 24th, Angela calls 911. Things are escalating pretty quickly. A man had tried to rape her inside the garage of her house.
Ooh.
So she told authorities that she believed that Michelle was behind it somehow and possibly had impersonated her, responding to advertisements of what they call rape fantasy ads on Craigslist. And obviously these ads are, answered by very well-adjusted men looking for violent sexual encounters. One response to
Why do I sense some sarcasm in that?
there was a lot of sarcasm in that. One response to the ad said, I am dying for this kind of fantasy to come true.
Ugh.
Pull me down, choke and bruise me, have your way with me. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. I get some people have kinks, but no,
Right.
this might be a symptom of something else.
Yeah.
So allegedly, Michelle had told the men responding to the ads that she was into, quote, forced sex, unquote, and that even if she fought them or if she screamed in response, they were supposed to proceed. Okay. So Angela showed the police the bruising on her neck, the portion of the wall in the garage that her face got slammed into during the attack. It was pretty brutal. They ripped her clothes. And the ads included photos of Angela along with details of her daily routine. So the two men responded to these ads. 2.
Wow.
Okay. But because she'd gone to authorities, luckily they were caught by police before anything else could happen. And one of these men was a 17-year-old boy.
Oh, shoot.
So sidebar, where do you think that guy is at in life now? So he was 17 in 2015. Probably in jail somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. All this obviously leads to Michelle's arrest. Okay. So she's released on a $100,000 bail the next day. Angela goes to authorities again, stating that the activity had stopped while Michelle was in jail, and it started up again after Michelle posted bail. So they arrest Michelle again, and this time they charge her with stalking, criminal threats, attempted rape, assault with intent to commit rape during a residential burglary, violating a protection order, bunch of other stuff because she was out on bail for something and still committed another crime. And this time they held her on $1 million bond, which means she was not getting out of jail, most likely barring a very expensive or rich miracle. So this was a terrible deal. Everyone lawyers up. Michelle's attorney, Michael Giusti, and her own family start their own investigation. And they learn the shocking truth about their daughter. She was innocent. Michelle was not doing this. She was being framed by someone else.
What?
Thank God they hired a private investigator and this attorney, like they were really on Michelle's side. They took their findings to authorities who came to the same conclusion, and Michelle was released after 90 days spent in jail waiting all of this stuff. So Anaheim police released a statement saying, quote, "We believe our actions were appropriate given the evidence known to us at the time."
Right.
And, quote, "In addition, it was the efforts of the detective who ultimately uncovered the truth and led to Michelle's exoneration."
Huh.
So I get that. And then Deputy District Attorney Richard Zimmer told the Daily Mail, "This is actually one of the most unusual things I've seen in my career. The amount of planning, the effort, the sophistication, the amount of time that went into framing Ms. Hadley was incredible." So, like I said off air, we're an equal opportunity podcast. Women can be assholes too. So here's how she did it. So they start investigating. They figure out that she was sent, Angela, again, so the wife of the U.S. Marshal. Yeah.
Okay.
So she's sending these messages to herself and posting the rape fantasy ads herself.
Oh.
They discovered she was using VPNs, virtual private networks, and third-party proxy servers to camouflage her IP address. She doctored emails to make it look like Michelle had sent them, and tricked police investigators by also using like religious-type language like Michelle had used with Ian when they broke up.
So the initial email that
Yes,
that was
those
really
the breakup
from Michelle.
emails were
real.
legit.
Wow.
Michelle had never met Angela. She'd
Okay.
never seen her.
Okay.
And all of a sudden there's a restraining order. Now all of a sudden she's in jail. Like, can you imagine being her?
No.
It's terrifying. So the 3 months Michelle was in jail, investigators were working to unravel all these cyber pathways from these messages. And it finally traced back to the condo where Ian and Angela lived, as well as Angela's cell phone. So she was behind it all. Charges, when they figured this out against Michelle, were immediately dropped. They then arrested Angela Diaz on charges. So there were 2 felony counts of kidnapping, 2 felony counts of false imprisonment by menace, fraud, or deceit, 1 felony count of perjury, 1 felony count of grand theft. My brain, it's gone. Okay, what do I've got maybe half a tank left here. 2 felony counts of forgery, 2 felony counts of possession of a forged check. It goes on. This list is so long.
Sure.
Further investigation showed that she had a crazy history. Like, you should do background checks on people you're dating, I think. Because like she altered a paycheck from her employer. She had told a previous boyfriend she had cervical cancer. She once pretended to be an attorney. She forged doctor's notes. She impersonated 2 of her husband's ex-girlfriends through email.
Oh, my.
So, bat shit. She also faked the pregnancy.
Well, I was kind of hoping.
Yeah.
So, with all due respect, because, yeah.
Yeah. You
That
should hit
would
the
be-
applause button, though, because karma is lovely.
it is.
And Angela, we'll try one. We got to turn it up. I think it's 8. Yay! You did it first try. Look at you go.
Let's see, is it still? Okay.
Anyway, so she was sent to the same women's prison that Michelle had been stuck in for 90 days. That's like sweet.
Well, that is
sweet
karma in
justice.
action.
Love it. So Angela was ultimately sentenced to 5 years in prison. She did plead guilty. Ian since divorced her. Okay. But we're still not done. Go ahead.
We're not. Well, I was just going to say, I really have zero interest in like criminal law enforcement, right? Like, I don't want to do.
The digging?
No, I want to do the digging. I don't want to do gross detective work.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
crime scenes, that stuff. Ugh. But like the cyber stuff, I have zero of the skills. Zero. But to like follow the money, trace things back and find the connections between people and that part of it, I feel like, again, with training, lots and lots of training, that part I could do. I don't want to go to a horrific scene. I've seen autopsy photos. I don't need to see those things in person.
No.
But some of the other parts of what detectives do, I would do it in a heartbeat. Like kind of cool stuff. Although now that all the gross things they probably see online, again, now I'm back to like not wanting to do it. But if it were just about the money and the, tracing people to other people and their activities to where were they, what proof do we have that they were in this place at this time, that stuff, awesome.
Well, there might be hope because remember when we first started working together, you would talk about how like data and math just not a thing, and you're like kind of doing some evaluation work now.
I do a tiny bit, only
so
a
there
tiny
might
bit.
be a hope there.
With help from people who really know what they're doing.
But you're starting to think that way, where it's like, oh, what if we dug into this? What would it tell us? I'm like, we're totally rubbing off on you
a little bit.
But one of my friends she was a detective. And she was in the ICAC unit. So ICAC is the Internet Crimes Against Children.
Mm-hmm. See,
and then she did it, but when she had her first child,
could she not do it anymore?
It totally was a game changer.
I
could never start doing it. Just I couldn't. So God bless the people who are trying to find and.
Yep.
But I mean, the fact that the ICAC unit is never going to go out of business.
Horrifying.
They have job security is so disgusting.
Yeah.
It's just so disgusting.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
So ready for the twist?
So there's still more. Okay.
There's a twist. Baby, I don't always have a twist, but we got one for you today. Okay. 6 years after this, Ian Diaz, the ex-boyfriend, was found guilty on the conspiracy to frame Michelle and sentenced to 10 years in prison for conspiracy to commit cyberstalking, perjury, and obstruction of justice. It is believed that he and his wife orchestrated this whole thing to get Michelle to walk away from her ownership interest in the condo.
Oh, my gosh.
Over a condo.
So initially, when it became clear that it wasn't Michelle doing, like, posting the rape fantasy stuff, and you said, when you first said it wasn't her, I thought it was him.
Yeah.
It was him. But then, anyway.
Clearly, Angela was already unhinged.
Yeah.
So she was like, whoever came up, she probably came up with the idea, and then Ian's like, oh, well, we do this, and we're
so
successful,
two unhinged
then we get
people
this
found
condo.
each other.
Yeah. And he was a U.S. Marshal. Do you remember me saying that part?
I wish you wouldn't have, but yes. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
Don't they have to go through some psychological and whatever?
They do. Oh, yeah.
This was after he was already in the position.
Yep.
Scumbag.
So after her release, Michelle decided to take action against the Anaheim Police Department, saying that she feels they did not listen to her account of things. Like I told you earlier, she'd never met Angela, she claims. She didn't know what was going on when this restraining order was issued. She also filed a federal civil suit against Ian and Angela, also naming the city of Anaheim and specific members of the police department and accusing them of false imprisonment, false arrest, civil rights violations, assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation, negligence, and malicious prosecution.
All the things.
All the things. So after they had arrested Hadley, so that was June 24th, after Angela reported the attacks, and they start to go dig in, security footage of the Diaz property presented in federal court showed that no one arrived at the home that day. It was all made up. The attack in the garage and all the stuff was all made up. They ignored that. The prosecutors ignored that evidence. So her lawsuit, very founded, right? They were unprofessional. They treated her as if she were guilty until proven innocent. How many times do we see that happen? And I suppose, when you've got a U.S. Marshal in the mix here, badge, you're going to respect the badge because you have one yourself, a federal law enforcement. It's crazy. But anyway, through a victim impact statement, Hadley's attorney told the court how Michelle's time in jail damaged her credit, her job, her apartment applications, and she still has to deal with questions about a crime she did not commit. She suffers from nightmares and PTSD. And if she had been convicted, if investigators hadn't followed through like they did and came in clutch, her ex and his wife were asking that she be registered as a sex offender.
Yeah, and that man,
they were literally trying to destroy this woman over ownership in an apartment.
Because it determines what neighborhoods you can live in and jobs you can get. And I mean, we're super.
And even stigma, though, you just hear like the first blurb in the media. You never hear the retraction. You never hear the correction.
Yeah.
I've been subjected to that crap, too, when I was in politics.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're going to lead with the sensational false BS. And then when it's all found out to be BS and, it's like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Are you really? No, you're not, because you like the headlines. Anyway, the lawsuit was settled in April 2021, so it took some time, but it was for an undisclosed amount, so I don't know how much they had to pay up. I'm sure it was significant. And she says, "This has been a huge nightmare for me, probably the most traumatic experience of my life." Fun fact, though, Ian's conviction came on the same day Michelle gave birth to her first child, a baby girl. And she says, "I hope my story becomes a beacon of hope for other domestic violence survivors. I want them to know they are not alone. There are so many wonderful people in this world who care and will fight alongside them."
Wow.
So she was fortunate. I mean, it's terrible that all this stuff happened to her, but she was fortunate that she had parents who they funded her defense.
Wow. Yeah.
So what happens to people that don't have that resource?
Yeah.
You know, obviously I'm thinking about that because I'm thinking about all the people that we have on our campus that would never have hope of outright paying for that type of defense. We do see when people come here, the most common types of debt they have, it's not consumer debt. It's not, oh, I need new clothes and new nails and stuff like that. It is legal. It is school. And it is medical. Yeah.
Yeah.
But legal oftentimes. And a lot of times it's custody and, child situations and that kind of a thing.
And I've known of some amazing defense attorneys who would take, basically cases pro bono, and they've still gave it their all as though they were paid what they deserve to be paid. They are out there, but they can only do so many of those cases too, And so, to know that this woman had support, both emotional and financial, makes a big difference. But wow, this totally goes in the you can't make it up file.
Right.
If you put this in a fictional book, you'd be like, oh, it's a case of fiction. Nope. Happened 2016.
It's just unbelievable.
California.
I mean, you would think, okay, well, Craigslist didn't exist back then, so never mind, the reference was going to be irrelevant. But, it just with the digital trail, you're leaving every moment of every day.
There's a decent chance you're going to be found out.
Decent chance, very high, or you just really think you're the most brilliant person on the planet, in which case no one's ever going to figure it out.
But it does take time. And so you saw her time in jail, time with a restraining order attached to her name, all these things.
Well, first it takes someone to not necessarily believe you, but being objective. Like, I want to know the truth. It reminds me of like sometimes when we're chasing down a grant, we'll have a grant opportunity. I will dig into it as if we're applying for it and as if we have it. And what is that going to look like in executing the terms of this grant? And do all of that, even if I'm not 100% sure at the onset, just to know, like, we've chased it all the way down. It's viable or it's not.
Yeah.
And I'll pull other people on the team into these different conversations. But it's objective. Okay, it might not work out. And we've spent a lot of time on this, but it might work out. It's like not predetermining.
Yeah.
And that's what our legal system's supposed to be like. But,
and
and this happened to a white woman. So again, if we added a person of color being the ex-girlfriend that wasn't happy about the breakup, or like there are
lower
socioeconomic, this outcome could have been and probably would have been entirely different.
It's wild.
So we're happy for Michelle. She escaped all of these lies and atrocities, and sounds like she's living a happy life now. But
I do kind of wonder how much she regrets that email that had
probably
all the weird stuff in it.
I'm sure
because
she
it
was
was
probably
ultimately
kicking
her own
herself.
words were used against her essentially, and because it was so unusual and kind of off the rails. It then, if somebody did it again in her name, it just made it.
I'm sure Ian is like, he starts dating Angela. He's like, oh my gosh, I just got this crazy relationship. You got to see these emails. And then, seeds planted. Angela saw her pathway, and then probably at some point, this is all conjecture, gets Ian involved, and so he's complicit in the crimes. But he's like, oh, added benefit. I'm not actually the ringleader of this, but I could get my condo.
Right.
Condo.
For a condo.
Buy her out. Anyone ever think about that? Buy her out. And he also, I didn't say this, but he had expected, because she was part owner, that she should be paying him rent, even though she didn't live there. And he's living there with his new wife.
He went,
Like,
instead
he was
of just
crazy.
going from A to B, he went from A to X to Y to Z to...
Yeah. Well, I hope he's enjoying his time in prison. I don't think U.S. Marshals probably fare too well in prison. I hope he's buff and he knows how to take care of himself. Or...
Oh, please stop.
Okay. Because, he has to be able to defend himself.
Okay. That was a wild ride. We go on those every once in a while.
Yeah. I have a couple really, really wild ones, but they're going to be longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll save it for another time.
We'll save it for when the weather sucks and we just want to get down here and escape from the cold and all the crap, and then we'll just do story time.
We'll take a quick break. Stay with us in the Escape Pod. Hello, escape artists out there. Quick public service announcement. You hear us talk on the Escape Pod about the One Heart campus. To learn more about this place for hope and healing where lives are changed for the better, listen to the prologue episode at escapepod.live or wherever you get your podcasts, or visit oneheartrc.org. All right. Speaking of the old podcast,
Oh, yeah. Are we still working?
we're still working. Okay.
Hi.
here we
Welcome
go.
back.
Hey there.
Hi.
We had a break.
We had a long... This was
I
a
had to
sidebar.
cut out
42
15
minutes.
15 minutes of a break.
We won't tell you what all we were talking about, but it was entertaining
Good times.
and enlightening.
What are you escaping to? Someplace you'd like to be? Something
I
you'd like
have
to do?
not seen my very, 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 very good friend Michelle in months.
Really?
Months. And my husband's out of town, so I'm like gonna go hang out with Michelle after work.
Awesome.
So I'm excited about that. And also, Nicole, God bless her, was showing me a dog breeder
Oh my.
for Great Danes, because I've been wanting a Great Dane puppy again.
Please.
And
think
she
hard
was
about
showing
that.
me all these pictures, and so I have Great Dane puppies in my head. It's her fault. It's her fault.
Just go visit them.
they're
Ask the
so
breeder if you
cute.
can just visit.
Have you ever hugged one?
Yeah.
A Great Dane?
Uh-huh.
Aren't they sweet?
They can be very sweet. Do you know how much they eat?
Yes.
Do you know how much dog food costs
Yes.
these days? Okay, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. They poop. It's big. It's all the stuff. But yeah, I get it. But no, we are not in a place to get a dog. But I think it's because of my stress levels.
You kinda desire- yeah.
animals will help bring down your cortisol levels. So I think that's like it's going hand in hand with me. I just left a board today because I cannot handle any more. And I felt really badly about it, but I'm not contributing at this point. I just can't. Like something had to go. And then here I'm thinking about a dog. And it's not rational.
Oh, yeah.
It's cortisol. My brain is malfunctioning because of too much cortisol.
You do need some good animal therapy, though.
do
You
need
need to
some
find
animal
somebody.
therapy, yeah.
Ask your buddy Keys if you can borrow her dog for a weekend.
Yeah, he's part Great Dane. Then I kind of get my
And
fix,
then you
yeah.
would get your fix. And that would probably be enough. We have on our baseball team, a family has a golden retriever.
Those are
And
the best.
they're so sweet and cute. And I got to say, it even looks a little
have
bit
a
like the golden we had.
Goldie
back in the day.
neighbor. So Sadie, I should go see Sadie.
So when there's practice or a game, if they bring the dog, which they don't always, but they have done it quite a bit this season, now I can just get a little bit of my golden retriever fix. The problem with it is that inevitably my children say, Mom, can't we get a golden retriever again? And I'm like, listen, people,
So you guys just have the
we just have a
Search and
working
rescue
dog.
dog? Okay.
Mhm. Yep, that's it. And
Okay.
he is not a pet.
he is a machine.
He's a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someday, I hope with age and if we
When
get
he
to
retires,
retirement
yeah.
with him, that he can be the pet like the first one was at
Right.
the end of his time with us. But not in his current state. He's not a pet at all because
No.
he's very, he likes my husband. And that's about it.
That's what they're supposed to do.
That's what they're supposed to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know where I'm escaping to. Oh, yes, I do.
Ooh, that was a glint.
Listen, people, 1-0 in fantasy football. Thank you very much.
Here we go.
I dominated last week. So we'll see if week 2 is as lucrative for the old
I
points.
haven't seen any strutting. I haven't heard any back talking and,
Well,
ribbing
because
in the hallways.
person I beat is such a sweet member of our team.
Oh, okay.
It's one of our care coordinators, and I just couldn't rub it in her face. But let me tell you, if it's Chad or Michael, or there's a few, you'll know if I won.
will know. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I think this week, too, I'm playing somebody who's knows nothing about football. And anyway, so hopefully I still beat her. But if not, well, then I might get a little feisty.
Newsflash for our newer employees. Julie is highly competitive. Play at your own risk.
Have you ever met people, though, that they're competitive? You know where I'm not competitive? This is something I learned in just the last about myself. I'm I'm really not competitive when it comes to my kids. So
oh, that's good, though.
My kids, I think parenting is the most humbling job in the whole wide world, right? Because nothing tells you don't know anything like having a child. And I am amazed sometimes at how competitive people are with their children.
Yes.
And I'm trying really hard to not be what are you doing? Some of the comments I see sometimes, I'm just oh, so I am competitive, but I'm competitive about things I do, not people
sports
in my
for
world.
sure.
Yeah, a little bit.
Games when we play game day.
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Okay, a lot.
A lot. All of the times.
I'm sorry. I'm a flawed human.
But it does bring me such joy when we have big game days. And I just laugh. I laugh so hard because, there's a lot of competitive people on our team.
Yeah.
And it's fun and it's healthy and I love it. I love it.
We like each other at the end of the day. And
we are trying to figure out how to reinstate game day because Fridays just wasn't working.
No.
And we need to do it.
And it's not, for our listeners, it's not a full day. It's
oh, yeah,
45
we say
minutes.
game day. Yeah, it's no more than an hour, but it's just a time for our staff to hang out in a non-work capacity with each other and have fun and get out of your work brain for a while. And we've had some really good, we've had some tournaments too at times.
Yeah.
I still remember one in the old building. Remember the
yeah.
tournament? That was a great time.
We did.
It was like the Olympics, but
Well, that's when you realized I can't shoot rubber bands. And it was bad. And I think I'm lucky I didn't poke my own eye out.
that was pretty funny though.
Then once I figured it out, I was gangbusters.
I think
but prior to
was
that.
it cans or cups we were shooting them at? I don't remember.
Yeah, cups, I think.
Okay,
Trying
so
to
it's like
knock
a
them off
pyramid.
a table.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it's a race against another team.
I mean, I'm up for it, but I also know when I'm really bad at stuff, and then I'm I was in a workshop once where it was a game, and it was who's competitive? And I say, of course I am. And then the assignment was to draw something, and immediately I'm thinking to myself, I'm not competitive about this because I'm terrible at drawing. It's just the things that I have any shot of being decent at or good at, then I get competitive. But I know the things that I'm bad at. And one of them, I don't even doodle. I don't draw, I don't paint, I don't sketch, none of those things. So if it's artistic in that form, not interested. And I know I'm not good at it, so then I'm not competitive. Beat me all you want because good for you. But it's the things that I know a little bit about, like fantasy football. Just saying.
Well, good luck.
Hey, thanks. Do you want to tell the folks how they can help us out?
Well, I could.
Maybe.
You remember,
EscapePod.live.
We're down to a quarter
of a
brain at this point. Yeah.
Visit EscapePod.live.
Fade and
Become a
fast.
patron. That would be awesome. That does get you behind our paywall for a few bonus episodes that we've done. Some of those are pretty fun. If you want to write in, you can write to justbecause@escapepod.live. If you have your own stories of escape, maybe
Maybe you had a
crazy ex did something
Yeah.
crazier than you could ever imagine. You can write into escapeartist@escapepod.live.
Good job. You did that all from memory.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, so thank you for tuning in, everyone. We sincerely appreciate your support. I think we shared last episode that we hit over 1,200 downloads in a month. That was something to celebrate. So we hear you. We appreciate you. But please share, continue to share. So help us to grow, gain more exposure, build a stronger community. And this was started more for helping people in our sphere of influence understand they are not inherently flawed. They are not alone. And and I did for so many years myself think that there was something seriously wrong with me. And it wasn't. It was the trauma. It was the things that I had endured that lead to decisions that are outside of the kinds of decisions you think you should be making. And so it isn't, therapy is good, all that stuff. The supportive environment we've created here is good. But there's so many people out there that are still suffering and struggling. We want you to know that there is nothing wrong with you.
Right.
You can overcome these things. And so we share these stories of escape to try to inspire other people. I will give a little hooray, though.
Okay.
We wanted to start incorporating more of some of what our One Heart guests here are doing. And back in March, we launched an Atrium program, which is a post-treatment type of program, pre-One Heart, for women who are addicted. And I'm happy to report we just had our second graduate from that program.
Yeah.
So we're talking more than a year sober. I'm going to say it just for you. These women are slaying it. And it's just really gratifying to see them have a totally new lease on life because of the support we've been able to provide them. So I'm so proud of my team. I'm proud of our guests for doing the hard work.
Yeah.
Overcoming addiction is no joke.
And it doesn't mean they're done. So all that means is that now they can move into the regular part of the One Heart program, have a little more freedom.
More freedom.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure. But
later curfew, that kind of a thing. But with the security blanket still in place. So if ever something's, I'm struggling today, we can talk about whether it was too early or, what the case is. So it's putting them back in the driver's seat. It's helping them make those decisions for their futures. And it's very exciting to see.
Yeah.
So shout out.
Yeah. A One Heart hooray. A One Heart woohoo. We could give this a name. Woohoo.
A woohoo?
A One Heart
woohoo. Julie's the alliteration queen on the campus. So
I try.
One Heart woohoo. In case someone missed it, they do not both start with O. They do not both start with W. You have to really work at it.
On that note,
we'll workshop it.
We're closing the hatch on this episode of the Escape Pod. Remember, trauma may be inevitable. How you grapple with it is optional.
So keep your brain together.
Stay resilient and keep laughing.
Thanks, everybody.